Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I am the Nerd Man, and today is Hot Takes Tuesday. This is going to be a new series of little episodes I'm going to do, where I'm going to be discussing my hot takes on anything cultural, or in fact in terms of kind of nerd culture as well, like comic book movies and sci-fi and film in general. Today's topic, we're going to be discussing my hot take on Cavil back as Superman. I want to start off by just giving a couple of caveats. I don't dislike Henry Cavill at all. I think he's a good actor. I think he's an actor who has a lot of ability and skill as an actor. Probably was trained very finely and very well, but doesn't have a ton of natural charisma, or at least is not translating his charisma well onto screen at the moment. Perhaps in future, as he develops as an actor, he might learn to do so. But from what I have seen, he is a very decent actor, and I certainly historically would have given him more of a chance to play Superman, given his filmography up until now. So I wanted to start off by this. This is not an anti-Snyder tirade. This isn't an anti-Man of Steel tirade, although it will go into Man of Steel, and it will go into BVS and what happened with Justice League. So my hot take on the Cavill situation is that I think Cavill should be out as Superman. And I know that there is a lot of support online for Cavil, and for Cavil continuing on with the role. So why have I taken this hot take on Cavil? So I'm going to give maybe just 5 reasons. So my first reason is the cast of Man of Steel has moved on. So this is a big problem, because Superman isn't just a matter of, with someone like Thor, it really doesn't matter if you kind of keep the actor and then get rid of somebody like, what's the girl's name? The character that Natalie Portman plays, or the supporting cast around Thor, can be a revolving door of supporting cast characters. But with Superman, it's very, very definitive. It isn't just him isolated as a character. Actually, it's him connected to a whole universe of characters that live in Metropolis and live in Smallville. Now, bringing back Cavill means bringing back a lot of baggage with him. It means bringing back an Amy Adams we don't like. It means bringing back a potentially a Lex Luthor that is a horror show, according to many on the internet, who I actually think is pretty much underrated, but most of the internet do not like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. So all you Cavill fans, think about that. That means bringing back someone like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, or is Lex Luthor no longer in the Superman universe, or are we going to recast again around that? Are we going to recast Lois Lane, because is Amy Adams going to come back to this universe that has essentially really halted, and because her career was really on the rise, and then you see a large dip in her career once Man of Steel came out and Batman v Superman came out, and it was critically planned. You've got the same with you've got the same thing happening with Pa Kent and Jor-El. So, is Russell Crowe going to come back to this universe? Russell Crowe, again, had a pretty decent career going up until Man of Steel, and you see a steep decline. Man of Steel essentially put big-name Hollywood stars, along with BVS, from actually partaking in the DC cinematic universe, and it also stunted Warner Brothers' ability to actually procure big name Hollywood talent to the DCEU franchise. The fact is, fans complaining about the performances of things like Lex Luthor, destroying, Cara Delevingne in Suicide Squad. Her career is pretty much over, done, because of one performance, which, many, I think, exaggerate how bad it was. So, essentially, being in the DCEU, because of the fans and how they are, and how sensitive they are about how their characters are portrayed, people just don't want to fuck with the DCEU or anything DC at the moment. You'll be lucky to get stars coming on board, good enough stars who don't want to just go to Marvel, where it's much more of a sure bet, to come on board to the DC right now. Even Batman couldn't secure, a high name talent to play the Penguin. Apart from, the guy who is basically box office poison, which is the Irish actor who's taken the role. I've forgotten his name at the moment. So here's a big problem with, first problem, I have to say, with, the Man of Steel. And, getting the Man of Steel 2, off the ground. It has to be an absolute dynamite script. Dynamite. Because Superman now is in peril. People don't want to touch Superman. He is boring. His cachet has gone down. So, will Amy Adams want to return? So, are we going to recast Lois Lane? Will Lawrence Fishburne, who's already travelled over to the Marvel side with Ant-Man, want to return? Because his career hasn't been going as well. They already had J.K. Simmons in for one role in Justice League, and he's now fired from the new Batman. So it shows that the DCEU doesn't have a great loyalty to the actors involved in their projects as well, which means that's going to further convince names who had been involved in this Superman franchise to not come back. So I think that's a really big problem for Cavill. The supporting cast coming back, or this is my second problem. Are we going to have a film which I think is absolutely ridiculous, which is Superman versus Black Adam? Now everyone's getting excited, wetting their pants for this supposed clash of the Titans within the DCEU. I think it's trash. This is a Shazam villain who Shazam should be facing, and quite frankly, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson should be more focused on getting the Shazam franchise off the ground, since it's a critically acclaimed franchise. It did make profit, and he's the main bad guy for that franchise. The fact that the writer of Shazam 2 is coming out and saying that he doesn't even know if The Rock, what the relationship is The Rock with this franchise, is very silly. If anything, what the DCEU should have been doing with that franchise is having an origin story for Black Adam, so that when he meets the Shazam family, it makes it that much more thrilling, building up the desire to see their first encounter. This is poor poor decision making if it is true that Cavil, I especially don't want Cavil to come back. If the idea is that he is going to face off with Black Adam, a Shazam villain, because it's a complete mess, it's completely wrong, and it will be once again the same Zod versus Superman situation of two very, very unbeatable forces facing each other. Which takes me to my third point. I don't like Cavill's Superman. I don't like Cavill's Man of Steel Superman. I don't like his Batman v Superman Superman, which is awful. And I especially don't like his Justice League Superman. This is why. So either he's going to have to come up with a third option to further confuse and split up audiences, to come up with a third type of Superman that is likable, for, you know, that isn't this, you know. So basically, in Man of Steel and BVS, he is a sad, mopey. He isn't Superman. He's somebody with Superman's powers, parading around in the suit. Okay, so he's mopey. He's sad. The Pa Kent is terrible in this franchise, so I don't want to see that Pa Kent back. All of it will be a reminder of what failed in past in the DCEU. So again, this is my hot take. You know, in terms of the BVS Superman and Man of Steel Superman, I think it was just. I can understand how it happened. I don't blame people. It's all with the benefit of hindsight, but terrible. So they tried to auto-correct that by making Cavil some kind of Superman Prime Superman who can defeat the whole of the Justice League by himself with his little finger, with his hands tied behind his back. You know, invulnerable to everything, magic lassos, everything, and essentially just making the whole of the Justice League look like a complete bunch of bitches. This match between Henry Cavill, Superman, and Wonder Woman should have been the Thor versus Hulk of the Justice League. And I can tell you now, with the popularity that Wonder Woman had then, if that fight had have happened, that would have raised the currency of the Justice League movie, which is the single most awful movie in the DCEU. Anyone who says Suicide Squad is lying to themselves. It is terrible. So the Justice League, Superman wipes the floor with all of them. Right? He is super powerful. He is everything. See, I, as a Superman fan, never understood why people thought Superman was boring. I didn't get it until I saw Man of Steel and until I saw Justice League. And then I was like, people see him as this all-powerful, can't be beat, can't be hurt, can't anything happen to him kind of character. And now it's starting to make sense. Okay, there was a vulnerability to past Supermans. You look through all of the iterations of Superman, and there's always been vulnerability, whether it's Smallville, whether it's Lois and Clark, the Adventures of Superman, whether it is the best of them all, Chris Reeves, whether it, even in the animated, the DCAU. When run by the Timverse, Superman couldn't even breathe in space. He needed a spacesuit. This is a Superman that I think a modern audience can get on board with. One with a little bit more vulnerability in powers and a little bit more personality in terms of how he his dialogue and his general presence, on-screen presence. Okay, one that can wipe the floor with the Justice League is a boring Superman. It is a Superman that you have to put on the sidelines until So the Justice League have to release him and then he can just defeat the bad guy. This is terrible. When is it that the Justice League haven't been able to face some minion of Darkseid? How are they going to face against Darkseid? What will they do against somebody like Darkseid if they can't even face against some nobody Steppenwolf without Superman coming in to save them like he's all their daddy? Okay? I do not like this terrible impersonation of Christopher Reeves that was in the Justice League, that was supposed to make up for the failures of the past two movies. So that's my third reason. I'm going to go into the fourth and fifth reason now. So in terms of this Superman franchise, what I think is a really, really fresh thing that, and I assure you, I think every Superman fan is going to be envious when the new Batman movie comes out. The Batman Year One, where once again, Batman being the trailblazer, showing other superheroes how to do it, and coming up with a new, more intellectual approach to superhero storytelling. Okay, same way the Dark Knight did. This guy, this director, I bet you this is going to be amongst the top two Batman movies, the next Pattinson movie, and I believe Pattinson is going to take the championship as the best Batman ever. And we will be looking back as Superman fans at our stupid Superman versus Dwayne Johnson movie and thinking, what the hell did we do? This is a time where we should be looking at a Superman that does an approach similar to what the Pattinson movie is doing. Get a Superman to be in his year one, year two, a younger Superman, and face a couple of villains and set up a movie of him against Brainiac. Because we can't do, unfortunately, which is another reason, we can't do Cavil versus Brainiac, because we've already had a Cavil, this Superman alien invasion movie. So people will be like, ooh, more of the same, don't want to go and see that. So we have to start from square one with Superman, get a younger actor, forget this 33 years old Jesus metaphor that Zack Snyder did, and get a younger actor to play this Superman, and have one that is basically on the same level as this Batman that Pattinson is going to play. And furthermore, we can start setting up a new universe. And this is my final coup de grace of why I believe that Cavil would be better off not being cast as the main universe Superman. This is how we appease the Zack Snyder fans, because as I said, I don't blame Cavil for anything that's happened regarding Superman. This is Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder's fault. So, my opinion, the best thing you could do with Cavil, and the way to show that you are still loyal to your actors, loyal to the actors that you bring onto these franchises, is set up a new main universe Superman. Let a new, young, fresh, good actor, somebody as good as Pattinson, someone as charismatic as Pattinson, and set up some new villains, set up a new universe, connect those worlds with the Joker, make that a separate DC universe, and eventually bring Wonder Woman into that once Patty Jenkins has finished her trilogy. Okay? And then what you do is this. You bring back Cavil later as Injustice Superman. Okay? You do an Injustice film. You may even get Zack Snyder to be producer. Maybe not director if you don't want to go that far. Get them to shut up the Zack Snyder fans about the Snyder Cut. That's the way you get them to do that, because the Snyder Cut should come out. Everyone knows it should come out, and we know that you screwed over Zack Snyder. Okay, that's the honest truth. But the truth is, really, he should have been fired from Man of Steel, if we're being perfectly honest with everything. So, a lot of Cavill supporters will say, "Oh, well, he deserves another chance. It wasn't his fault." Or the Snyder fans will say, "We want Cavill back because secretly that's a backdoor way for them to get Snyder back into the DCEU and feel like their DCEU world of darkness and grimness and unrecognizable versions of Superman can still exist." So what happens? What happens now? We get Cavill in an alternate universe to do an Injustice Superman, where you can do the similar storyline where our main version Superman faces off against Cavill, which would complete the what was happening in the BVS that Snyder was making. Make that a separate universe and bring it together afterwards. And then you can even use Cavill in the meantime to do a Red Sun, a version of Superman, an alt world, kind of like the Joker. Yeah, do a DC Dark label and use Henry Cavill as Superman in a Red Sun movie. This will be the best of both worlds. This is my hot take on Cavill being cast as Superman. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It will help me make more videos if you enjoy the content. And also, tell me what you think. Do you think Cavill should be recast? Do you like my idea of him doing the red version of the graphic novel Red Sun instead? How do you feel about DC and them staying faithful to their actors at the moment? So all of that, and comment, please, like, subscribe, and thank you so much. This is my hot take for Hot Take Tuesday.